Welcome back to What You Reading. We have a guest. This is his third time to join us. Thanks for dropping by, John. Who is Joy Harjo? Am I saying that right? Joy Harjo has written her second memoir called Poet Warrior. Now, Joy is not just a poet, she's also a musician who's had some albums released, an artist, and also a professor. And Joy is currently a poet laureate for the United States, appointed in 2019. The poet laureate is selected by the librarian at the Library of Congress. They receive an annual stipend of $35,000. The funding comes from the foundation of Archer Milton Huntington, who created a foundation to cover the cost for this position. If you're familiar with South Carolina, hopefully you know that name and remember that name, Huntington. The family also founded Brook Green Gardens near Pawleys Island, and the state park, which is right across the street, is named after the Huntington family. Before you start with the book, what has Joy done to earn this unique honor of being the Poet Laureate? Joy is a Muskogee Indian. Her tribe was a member of the Creek Nation. Her ancestors walked the Trail of Tears from the deep south all the way to Oklahoma. She was born and raised in Oklahoma. What she did is that she took the pain from all the centuries of her ancestors and all that pain that they had endured and mixed it with all the pride that she felt by being part of such a noble people and translated it into very moving stories. She graduated from the University of New Mexico, then from the very prestigious MFA program at the University of Iowa. She's taught at the University of Tennessee, Arizona State University, University of Illinois, and she plays tenor sax in a band called Poetic Justice. And by the way, she's 70 years old. Before you go on, I've always wanted to know, what's the difference between a memoir, which is what it says on the cover of her book, and an autobiography? Well, simply put, a biography is the life of an individual as told by someone else. An autobiography is the story of a person's life written by the person themselves. And a memoir is a collection of memories written by the person themselves. So the author is telling us about their life, but don't expect it to be wall-to-wall coverage, like from birth to death. It's just selected memories. In the case of Poet Warrior, it is stories in Joy's life that inspired and guided her towards music and poetry. In short, it's the stories that inspired her to become a creator. So, when I think of a memoir that she might write, I think of stories about the first time she saw a sunrise and was inspired by it, or how she ended up landing in a band like Poetic Justice. Is that right? Well, that's not Poet Warrior. She writes about the things that matter the most. Her dreams, magic play a big part of her story. She speaks about what it meant to her to become the first Native American poet laureate of the United States. Harjo's memories and stories address subjects like spiritual growth, listening, healing, and how love is unbreakable. She writes really about a lot of deep things. And if we listen, we could maybe learn a little something. She writes on one occasion, "We are all here to serve one another. At some point, we have to understand that we do not need to carry a story that is unbearable. We can observe the story, which is mental, feel the story, which is physical, let the story go, which is emotional, then forgive the story, which is spiritual, after which we use the materials of it to build a house of knowledge." Now, this doesn't sound much like poetry. So does the book take the form of poetry because she's a poet, or is it sort of your typical work of nonfiction? Well, it includes pieces of poetry, but it actually unfolds like a typical work of nonfiction. Here's a portion of one of her poems. Girl warrior was becoming a woman. One day she was the sun, another day the moon. One day she hated everyone. The next day. I really can't think of a better poetic expression of adolescence. Becoming a woman, moving from a child to an adult. It's not, she doesn't write one day she was like the sun. It's one day she was the sun. And the next, the moon. Unpredictable, moody. Adolescence and moodiness are almost synonyms. Is the poetry testimony? Absolutely, it's testimony. Poetry is the vehicle she uses to connect us to her memories. Native Americans believe very strongly in their ancestors. Why do you think that is? I mean, really, it's just a guess. But any people who have a future, who are assured of a grander future than they are a past, tend to neglect their personal histories and concentrate on tomorrow. It's always about the future. When a group of people feel as if their future is limited, as if they've hit their ceiling, and that tomorrow will be about the same as yesterday, they tend to do a lot of remembering of the past. They draw a lot of strength from their ancestors who lived before them. I mean, here's another portion of a poem. It's so simple it doesn't even need a prelude from me. I never got to wash my mother's body when she died. I returned to take care of her memory. That's how I make peace when things are left undone. I go back and open the door. Oh, hold on. What does she mean she opens a door? What does that mean? I think when she says she's opening the door, that to her is ritual. Opening the door is her reaching out to grab the roots to hold on to. And ritual helps her do that. When she cannot be present for her mother's death, she can always use rituals to return and go back to that moment. And after reading of her reverence for rituals, it actually dawned on me how much I really value the rituals in my life and in worship. Now, as I've aged, I appreciate rituals more. Rituals in worship for sure. I know it seems like I don't, but I really do. When you are sliding off a cliff, you reach for anything, you grab for anything to hold on to, and it's usually you grab some roots, and these roots will bear our weight. Is there anything else that you would like to say that might inspire us to pick up a copy of Poet Warrior? Well, I think this is a very spiritual book. I mean, Native Americans are very spiritual people. I mean, some people know all the facts, but other people just understand the meaning. And I think Joy gets it. She gets the meaning. She knows the meaning. She also knows the things that matter the most are unseen. And that's what our scripture says oftentimes, that the things that are unseen are the things that are most valuable. And I think she understands that. She realizes that the unseen things in this world have great value. Thank you for joining us today on What You're Reading. Go out and pick up a copy of Poet Warrior. I think you might find it inspiring. Have a good day.